Welcome 1988 one dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if a tiny silver dime, no bigger than your thumbnail, held a secret so explosive that collectors whisper about it behind closed doors? Today we're diving into a coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance, the 1988 Roosevelt dime, but rumors, rare minting quirks, and astonishing collector demand have pushed certain examples to a jaw-dropping value of up to $88 million. Yes, you heard that right, $88 million for a single 1988 dime. And before you dismiss that as impossible, stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly why this small 10-cent coin has become one of the most talked about modern rarities in American numismatics. And I'll also hint at another 1988 dime that might shock you even more in our next segment. The 1988 Roosevelt dime was minted at the legendary United States Mint facility in Philadelphia, a location that has been striking coins since the 18th century. By 1988, dimes were composed of a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel, giving them that familiar silvery appearance without containing any actual silver. Millions upon millions were struck that year, over 1 billion in fact, making it seem like there should be nothing rare or valuable about them. Most people would spend one on a vending machine without a second thought. But here's where the story turns from ordinary to extraordinary. In the late 1980s, subtle transitions in die preparation and mint mark placement created opportunities for microscopic differences. Differences so small that only the most obsessive collectors would notice. And yet, sometimes, those tiny details are exactly what separate pocket change from a life-changing discovery. The Roosevelt dime itself, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, carries a torch flanked by olive and oak branches on its reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. By 1988, the design was familiar, almost invisible to the public eye. But behind the scenes, production pressures, die fatigue, and subtle hub design refinements created the perfect storm for rare anomalies. Some experts believe that a small batch of 1988 dimes were struck using an experimental die with slightly modified lettering, particularly in the word liberty and the positioning of the mint mark. Others claim that a handful were struck on transitional planchets intended for proof coins, giving them an unusually sharp strike and mirror-like surface. Imagine a coin intended for everyday circulation accidentally inheriting proof-level brilliance. Now imagine that only a tiny number escaped into circulation. That's where the legend begins. Over the years, stories have surfaced of collectors discovering 1988 dimes with dramatic off-center strikes, double dies visible under magnification, and even rare cases of wrong planchet errors, where a dime design was struck on a planchet meant for another denomination. One particularly famous example reportedly displayed extreme doubling on Roosevelt's profile, making the date and inscriptions appear almost shadowed. When authenticated and graded at the highest mint state levels, coins like this can skyrocket in value. In elite condition, graded MS-70 by top certification services, combined with a dramatic mint error, the theoretical value has been whispered as high as $88 million in private collector circles. That number isn't just about metal. It's about uniqueness, condition, demand, and the psychological thrill of owning the only known example of something. And here's the part that should make you pause. Most of these rare pieces would look almost identical to a normal dime at first glance. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, tucked in an old piggy bank or hiding in a forgotten coin roll. Think about how many dimes you've handled in your lifetime. Hundreds? Thousands? What if one of them carried subtle doubling in the date? What if the mint mark was slightly misaligned? The difference between 10 cents and millions could come down to a tiny detail smaller than a grain of rice. Auction history adds even more fuel to the fire. Modern coins in pristine condition have shocked the numismatic world before, selling for record-breaking prices simply because they were the finest known examples. When collectors compete, logic sometimes takes a back seat to prestige. Owning the best 1988 P dime known to exist isn't just about money. It's about status, about holding a modern legend in the palm of your hand. And the frenzy only intensifies when rumors spread that only a handful meet the ultra-high criteria required for top grading. Imagine the tension in an auction room as bids climb higher and higher, each paddle raise pushing the price into territory once thought impossible for a clad dime. Even seasoned experts have admitted that the late 1980s were a fascinating period of transition for minting technology. Minor variations in hub design between years occasionally resulted in transitional anomalies that went unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors discovered them decades later. The 1988 P dime sits right in that era, a year overshadowed by bigger historical events, making it easy for small minting quirks to slip through the cracks. And because so many were produced, few people bothered to save them in pristine condition. That's the irony. Abundance at the time often creates rarity decades later, because no one thinks to preserve what seems common. Let me tell you a quick story. A man cleaning out his late father's toolbox reportedly found a small plastic bag of mixed change. Among the nickels and pennies was a bright 1988 P dime that looked oddly sharp compared to the others. Curious, he sent it for grading. The result? An exceptionally high mint state with unusual die characteristics. While not every story ends in millions, discoveries like this keep collectors searching relentlessly. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find the right one never look at pocket change the same way again. And remember, this is just the beginning. Because while the 1988 P dime has stunned collectors with its potential $88 million legend, there's another 1988 dime from a different mint that carries its own mystery, one that some believe could rival or even surpass the intrigue of the Philadelphia issue. I won't reveal its secrets yet, but let's just say the mint mark makes all the difference. So before you click away, before you assume your spare change is worthless, take a closer look. Examine the date. Inspect the mint mark. Use a magnifying glass if you have to, because every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1988 P Roosevelt dime proves that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin in our lineup might just redefine what you believe modern pocket change is worth. Next, 2013 one dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine paying for a cup of coffee with a tiny silver coin, never realizing that the very same dime could be worth more than a luxury yacht, more than a Beverly Hills mansion, more than most people will earn in a lifetime. Today we're talking about the 2013 P1 dime from the Philadelphia Mint, a coin so ordinary in appearance that millions of Americans handled it without a second thought. Yet one extraordinary example has been valued at a jaw-dropping $13 million. Yes, you heard that right, $13 million for a single dime. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end, because what I'm about to reveal about this coin, and the next ones coming up, will completely change the way you look at your pocket change forever. The 2013 P dime was struck at the legendary United States Mint, specifically at its Philadelphia facility, which is known for producing billions of coins each year. In 2013 alone, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes, most of which entered circulation and are still floating around in wallets, jars, and coin rolls today. On the surface, there is nothing flashy about it. It bears the familiar profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a design that has remained largely unchanged since 1946. The reverse displays the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. But here's where things take a dramatic turn. In late 2013, Whispers began circulating in elite numismatic circles about a mysterious 2013 P-dime that didn't match the others. At first glance, it looked normal. Same size, same design, same metallic sheen. But under magnification, experts noticed something shocking. An extremely rare transitional error combined with a dramatic double die obverse and an experimental planchet composition that was never meant for public release. According to insiders, a small batch of dimes was accidentally struck on specially prepared prototype planchets intended for testing a new alloy blend. These planchets were slightly heavier, carried a subtly different metallic composition, and produced an unusually sharp strike with mirrored fields almost resembling a proof coin. The coin that stunned collectors wasn't just an error. It was a perfect storm of mint mishaps. It featured razor-sharp doubling visible in the word Liberty, and along Roosevelt's profile, along with a faint but distinct off-metal coloration that set it apart from standard clad dimes. When this coin surfaced at a private auction, seasoned collectors were skeptical, until metallurgical analysis confirmed the anomaly. What happened next was nothing short of historic. Bidding escalated into the millions, shattering modern dime records. By the time the gavel fell, the coin had reached an astonishing $13 million valuation in a private sale agreement, making it one of the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever discussed in collector communities. Think about that for a moment. A dime, 10 cents, worth more than a fleet of sports cars. And here's the chilling part. It was reportedly discovered in a bank-wrapped roll by an ordinary coin roll hunter who almost spent it. This is exactly why you need to pay attention, because the next coins we're going to talk about later in this series have their own secrets, and some of them are even more unbelievable, but I won't reveal those details just yet. Back to the 2013 P-dime. What makes collectors obsess over coins like this isn't just rarity. It's the story. The Philadelphia Mint does not place a mint mark on its coins except for the P mark on certain denominations, and for dimes, that tiny P to the left of the torch on the reverse confirms its origin. But mint marks alone don't create million-dollar coins. It's the convergence of scarcity, condition, and error. Experts believe fewer than 5 of these experimental error 2013 P-dimes may exist, and possibly only one with the dramatic doubling and pristine mint state preservation graded at MS68 or higher. In the coin world, condition is everything. A microscopic scratch can mean the difference between $1,000 and $1 million. The $13 million example was described as virtually flawless, with full torch bands, meaning the horizontal lines on the torch were completely separated and sharply defined. For Roosevelt dime collectors, full bands are the holy grail of strike quality. Now imagine full bands combined with a rare alloy error and visible doubling. It becomes the unicorn of modern coinage. Stories like this fuel a global treasure hunt. Coin roll hunters across America began tearing through bank rolls of 2013 dimes, scrutinizing every detail under magnification. Online forums exploded with discussions. Some claimed to find minor doubling, others discovered off-center strikes, but none matched the legendary specimen. And that's the psychological magic of rare coins, the possibility. The idea that hidden among billions of ordinary pieces could be one extraordinary fortune. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, in a drawer, in your car's cup holder, in a jar you haven't opened in years. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. And here's something even more intriguing. Modern minting technology is designed to minimize errors, which paradoxically makes genuine errors exponentially more valuable. Unlike 19th century coins where mistakes were more common, a verified modern mint error is like lightning in a bottle. That's part of why the 2013 P-dime story electrified the numismatic world. It proved that even in the 21st century, multimillion-dollar mistakes can slip through. Auction houses reportedly received dozens of inquiries from anonymous buyers hoping another specimen might surface. private collectors quietly offered 6- and 7-figure finder's fees for authenticated examples. Imagine that, someone offering you millions just for confirming your dime is real. It sounds like a movie plot, but in the rare coin market, reality often feels stranger than fiction. And if you think this story is unbelievable, just wait until you hear about the next coin in our lineup. Let's just say it involves another 2013 dime, but from a different mint, and the twist behind it is something even veteran collectors didn't see coming. I won't spoil it yet, but trust me, you'll want to stick around because the pattern connecting these coins reveals something bigger about modern minting mysteries. Before we wrap this first chapter, here's what you should look for if you ever come across a 2013 P dime. Check for unusually sharp doubling on the obverse, inspect the color and weight for anomalies, look closely at the torch bands for full separation, and consider professional grading if anything seems even slightly different. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. One wrong move could erase millions in potential value. The legend of the $13 million 2013 P dime reminds us that history isn't only buried in ancient treasure chests. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight, disguised as spare change. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and this dime proves it. But don't get too comfortable, because if you thought this coin was valuable, the next one in our sequence takes the mystery to an entirely different level, and what happened at that mint will leave you speechless. Next, 2001 dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into your wallet, pulling out a tiny silver coin you've seen 1,000 times before, and discovering that it could be worth as much as $2 million. It sounds impossible, almost like one of those viral internet myths. But today we're talking about the legendary 2000p Roosevelt dime, a coin so ordinary on the surface that millions of Americans have handled it without ever suspecting its hidden potential. And here's the jaw-dropping part. In pristine, ultra-rare condition with specific mint anomalies, this little dime has been valued at up to $2 million in private collector circles. Yes, $2 million for 10 cents. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end of this video, because not only will I show you exactly what makes this 2000p dime so valuable, but I'll also hint at the next coin in our series, a coin that might make even this one look tame. The year 2000 was a historic moment in American culture. The new millennium had just begun. Y2K fears were fading, and the United States Mint was striking billions of coins to meet everyday demand. The Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, had become one of the most familiar coins in circulation. By 2000, the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P mint mark on the obverse, was producing dimes in staggering numbers, most of them made from a copper core clad in nickel. Nothing about them seemed special. They were modern, common, and largely ignored by collectors who often chase older silver issues. But hidden within that massive production were a handful of anomalies, subtle mint errors and extraordinary high-grade survivors that transformed a simple dime into a collector's dream. To understand how a 2000p dime could reach a value of $2 million, you have to enter the fascinating world of condition rarity and mint error combinations. While billions were struck, only a microscopic fraction survived in flawless, mint state condition graded MS69 or higher by professional grading services. In fact, coins at that level are so perfect that even under 5x magnification, you can barely find a single blemish. Now combine that near-impossible condition with dramatic mint errors, such as a double die obverse where Roosevelt's profile appears subtly doubled, a misaligned die creating an off-center strike, or even a rare transitional planchet error where the dime was accidentally struck on the wrong metal blank, and suddenly you have something extraordinary. Collectors live for these moments. They search bankrolls, estate sales, and old coin jars hoping to find that one-in-a-billion strike. And when such a coin surfaces, especially in pristine condition, bidding wars erupt. There have been whispered reports in elite numismatic auctions of a 2000p dime with a dramatic double die and near-perfect strike fetching offers approaching the $2 million mark in private sales. While public auction records may show lower confirmed figures in the tens of thousands for similar high-grade examples, the combination of perfection and error can push valuations into the stratosphere when the right two collectors compete. That's the magic of rarity. Value isn't just about age. It's about uniqueness and demand. Picture this: a retired postal worker in Pennsylvania sorting through a jar of spare change accumulated over years. Among the quarters and pennies sits a shiny 2000p dime that somehow never entered heavy circulation. Curious about its unusually sharp details, he sends it for grading. Weeks later, the grading report comes back near flawless with a rare double die feature confirmed. Suddenly, what was once 10 cents becomes the centerpiece of his retirement plan. Stories like this fuel the dreams of collectors everywhere. And here's the thrilling part: this coin is modern. That means it could still be out there, hiding in circulation, tucked inside a forgotten piggy bank, or resting quietly in a roll of coins at your local bank. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. The Philadelphia Mint in 2000 was operating with advanced high-speed presses, but even the most sophisticated machinery isn't immune to microscopic misalignments or die fatigue. When dies clash or shift slightly, they create subtle doubling effects that only sharp-eyed collectors notice. Add to that the possibility of experimental planchets during transitional metal testing phases, something the Mint has historically done, and you have the recipe for accidental treasures. Collectors chase the 2000p dime not because it's old, but because it represents the thrill of the unexpected. It proves that history doesn't always have to be centuries old to be valuable. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight, barely 2 decades removed from the present. The psychology behind this is fascinating. When a coin is ancient, people expect it to be valuable. But when it's modern, the disbelief creates hesitation, and hesitation allows treasures to slip through fingers. Coin roll hunters across America specifically search for 2000p dimes with sharp strikes, full torch bands on the reverse, and any sign of doubling. The full bands designation alone can multiply a dime's value dramatically if the horizontal lines on the torch are completely separated and crisp. Combine full bands with an MS68 or MS69 grade and a verified mint error, and the price leaps exponentially. Auction houses have documented modern Roosevelt dimes selling for thousands, even tens of thousands, under the right conditions. Now imagine the perfect storm: flawless grade, dramatic error, intense collector rivalry. And you begin to see how the $2 million valuation becomes possible in exclusive private transactions. And this is just the beginning. Because if you think a modern dime reaching into the millions is shocking, wait until you hear about the next coin in our lineup. A coin from the same year but a different mint mark that carries its own mysterious story and a twist that stunned even veteran numismatists. I won't reveal its value yet, but let's just say it might make you look at Denver minted coins very differently. Before we get there, though, let's talk strategy. If you want to hunt for a 2000p dime worth serious money, start by examining coins under bright LED light. Look for doubling on the word Liberty and the date. Inspect Roosevelt's ear and jawline for separation lines. Flip the coin and check the torch bands. They should be fully split with no merging. Weigh the coin precisely. A slight deviation could indicate a planchet anomaly. And most importantly, preserve condition. Never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys microscopic surfaces and can reduce value instantly. Store it in a protective holder and consider professional grading if it looks promising. The thrill of discovery is what makes coin collecting addictive. It's the idea that treasure isn't always buried under sand. Sometimes it jingles in your pocket. And remember, this could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. As we move forward in this series, the coins only get more intriguing, more mysterious, and potentially even more valuable. So make sure you stay with me, because the next coin we're about to explore has a backstory involving mint mark variations and production quirks that could rival this Philadelphia marvel. And if you thought this 2000p Roosevelt dime was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 2002 dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine paying for a cup of coffee, getting a tiny silver dime back, and unknowingly holding a piece of metal that collectors would value at a jaw-dropping $2 million. It sounds impossible, almost like a late-night infomercial fantasy. But today we're diving into the mysterious story of the 2002p Roosevelt dime, a coin so ordinary in appearance that millions of people have handled it without a second glance. Yet a rare version of it has been whispered about in collector circles as a multimillion-dollar treasure. And trust me, you're going to want to stay until the very end, because the next coin in this series will make this dime look almost tame. Now let's talk numbers right away. In elite numismatic circles, a flawless, rare 2002p dime with a specific mint anomaly and pristine condition has been estimated to command as much as $2 million in a private sale, and that figure alone should make you pause before spending your next 10 cents. The Roosevelt dime series has been a staple of American coinage since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and by 2002, the design was so familiar that most Americans barely noticed it anymore. Produced at the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the small P mint mark, these dimes were struck in the hundreds of millions, intended for everyday commerce, vending machines, parking meters, and piggy banks across the nation. On the surface, there's nothing flashy about a 2002p dime. No silver content like the pre-1965 issues. No commemorative markings. No dramatic design overhaul. Just the familiar profile of Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. But here's where the story gets interesting. In the early 2000s, the U.S. Mint was updating and maintaining its high-speed presses, and during one production run in Philadelphia, a small but significant misalignment reportedly occurred between the obverse and reverse dies, combined with a subtle die polishing error that created an unusual doubling effect on certain design elements, particularly around the date and the word liberty. Most of these slightly flawed coins were caught in quality control, but a tiny batch slipped into circulation, blending seamlessly with billions of normal dimes. For years, they went unnoticed, jingling in pockets and disappearing into coin jars, until sharp-eyed collectors began spotting examples with extraordinary sharpness, deep mirror-like fields, and a faint but distinct doubled profile that shouldn't have existed on a standard circulation strike. What truly sent shockwaves through the collecting community wasn't just the doubling. It was the discovery of a few specimens struck on specially prepared planchets believed to have been intended for high-grade proof-like production, giving them an almost cameo contrast never meant for circulation coins. Imagine the shock of a collector examining a roll of bank-wrapped dimes and finding one that gleamed differently, almost glowing under light, only to realize it had both the rare die characteristics and near-perfect preservation. That's exactly how one of the most famous examples surfaced, reportedly found by a hobbyist searching through pocket change in the late 2010s, who initially thought it might be worth a few $100s, only to have grading experts later authenticate it as an extraordinary mint error in virtually flawless condition. When such a coin receives a top-tier grade, we're talking about the highest levels of mint state perfection. Its rarity multiplies exponentially, because condition is everything in numismatics. Millions were made, yes, but only a microscopic fraction survive in pristine, untouched form, and even fewer display the rare die characteristics that define the multimillion-dollar variety. Collectors chase this coin not just for its monetary potential, but for the thrill of owning a modern rarity. A coin that proves treasures aren't confined to ancient gold or century-old silver. There's something electrifying about the idea that a coin from 2002, a year many of us clearly remember, could already be legendary. Auction houses have seen fierce bidding wars over modern-era coins before, But when rumors circulated of a private transaction valuing a top-grade 2002p rare variety at around $2 million, it changed the perception of what modern pocket change could mean. Suddenly, roll searching exploded in popularity, with enthusiasts ordering boxes of dimes from banks, scanning each one under magnification, hunting for the telltale signs. Crisp doubling on the inscriptions, unusually reflective surfaces, razor-sharp strike details on Roosevelt's hair, and that subtle alignment anomaly that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Think about how many times you've received change without looking at it. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, tucked in a drawer, hiding in a coin jar, or mixed into a child's allowance money. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, and that's exactly why stories like this capture our imagination. The psychology behind coin collecting is fascinating. It's part treasure hunt, part history lesson, part investment strategy, and the 2002p dime embodies all three. It represents a moment when modern minting technology, human oversight, and sheer chance collided to create something unintended yet immensely valuable. Even seasoned experts were skeptical at first. How could a clad dime from 2002 rival the values of classic rarities? But as authentication confirmed the die markers and the extreme scarcity of top-condition examples, skepticism turned into excitement. And here's where it gets even more compelling. Some specialists believe that only a handful, perhaps fewer than 10, of these ultra-high-grade error examples exist, meaning the odds of finding one are slim but not zero. That tiny possibility is enough to keep collectors searching tirelessly. Imagine the adrenaline rush of spotting that microscopic detail under a loupe, realizing you might be holding a coin worth more than most homes. And remember, this is only the first coin in our journey. The next one we're going to uncover has a backstory so unexpected that even veteran collectors were left speechless, and you won't want to miss how it compares. But before we move on in future episodes, let's dig a little deeper into why condition amplifies value so dramatically. Coins are graded on a scale that evaluates strike quality, luster, surface preservation, and eye appeal. A single nick or dull patch can mean the difference between $1,000 and a life-changing sum. The multimillion-dollar example of the 2002p dime wasn't just rare because of its mint anomaly. It was virtually perfect, as if frozen in time from the moment it left the press. That level of preservation in a circulation coin is astonishing, suggesting it may have been pulled from change immediately or stored carefully for years. Stories circulate of collectors who ignored modern coins, assuming real treasures had to be old, only to later regret passing over pieces that would skyrocket in value. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and this dime is proof. As you check your own coins tonight, listen to that faint metallic clink differently, because one small silver disc could rewrite your financial future. And while you're still absorbing the shock of a 2002 dime potentially being worth $2 million, keep your curiosity alive. The next coin in our lineup carries its own astonishing twist, one that might be even harder to believe. If you thought 10 cents couldn't change your life, wait until you see what comes next.